Good morning, beloveds. How are you today? Good. Welcome. We are a sanctuary for the living presence, and I have a reading this morning from our new book of the month, Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And this book is a dandy. Our reading today, he says, how people treat their fellow human beings, and indeed the world around them, largely depends on how they conceive of themselves. We all have many different ways of seeing who we are, and these different views influence our behavior. For instance, we may consider ourselves in terms of gender, or as followers of this or that religion, or as members of this or that race or nationality. We may think of ourselves in terms of family, as a father or a mother or a child, for instance. We may also identify with our occupation, our level of education, our achievements. Depending on which perspectives we take, we raise different expectations of ourselves, and this, in turn, affects our behaviors, including our treatment of others. Everyone has their own separate sense of identity. Because of this, it is of primary importance to have a clear understanding of what unites us all, namely, our common humanity. We are all human, all 7 billion of us. In this respect, we are all 100% the same. I'm going to read our affirmation now, and I'll invite you to join me in just a moment. I am one with the Infinite One. My thoughts, words, and actions are filled with its harmony, love, beauty, warmth, and order. Knowing my unity with all things, I walk in the world filled with loving compassion, and so it is. Please stand and join me with conviction. I am one with the Infinite One. My thoughts, words, and actions are filled with its harmony, love, beauty, warmth, and order. Knowing my unity with all things, I walk in the world filled with loving compassion, and so it is. Thank you, beloved Lori. How many of you kind of think the world is going to hell in a handbasket sometimes? It kind of can look that way, can't it? And it can feel that way. It can feel like something that is greater than we can ever address. It can feel overwhelming and saddening. These are the times for which we were made. That's why we're here. We wouldn't be here right now if we were not made for these times. You have a gift. You have something that you bring to the table right here and right now that will transform the world. If you're willing to show up, be present to that something, express it, allow it to be who you are. Allow the divine idea that you are to express fully in the world. And we're here today to talk about exactly this thing. You know, I read in the reading today, we are 100% the same. 100%. And I have to say, in terms of the greater overall culture, our community right here in this room is pretty homogenous, right? And yet, even though we are 100% the same, there is an infinite variety right here in this room. Because I look around, you don't look like me. Your skin's different, your hair is different, your eyes are, I see things about people in this room that are different. And yet at our core level, we are 100% the same. And that is true of the billions of people on planet Earth. I can look around and I can find with my human eyes all kinds of differences. I can see the vast diversity and variety of humans and of human experience on planet Earth. And not only can I see it, I can appreciate it and value it and honor it and lift it. And part of the reason I can do that so well is that I know at the core and the center of our beingness, we are all 100% the same. So please hear me. When I say that, I am not attempting to minimize our differences. What I want to do is recognize and affirm our oneness. And from this place of strength, we can recognize and affirm our diversity. And what a powerful idea that is. That we can be both things at the same time. One, unity. One, presence. One idea in the mind of God. And one, infinite expressions of diversity. In all forms, not just in physical form, but in cultures, in ideas, in values, in ethics, in all kinds of things. So even though we're separate, we're one. And even though we're one, we're separate. And what do you suppose is the source of most of the world's problems that we struggle with? Separation and duality, our belief that somehow I am not you. Somehow I am different from you, and so that means it's okay for you to have less. It's okay for you not to have the same rights and privileges I have. It's okay somehow because you're different than I am for me to not value your culture or your ideas because it's different. Now I want to tell you, we don't even want to sit in a different chair on Sunday morning, do we? Let alone immerse ourselves in a different culture where there's different ideas and different people and have that be okay. And I want to also not diss our aversion to change because that is one of the things that gives us stability, isn't it? But we can't be so averse to change, we can't be so averse to diversity that we do not embrace all that was created in the infinite mind and heart of God. Is there anything in the universe that is not of God's stuff? Of course not. Because what did God have to create from? Itself. That is it. And so when I diss somebody else, or even when I diss a concept or an idea, I'm dissing God. Right? Is that really mine to do? I mean, I suppose I can. But we live in a universe of cause and effect, don't we? It's done unto me as I believe. And if I can demean anyone, I am demeaning myself because we are all of the body of God. Yes? You with me so far? All right, I'm totally off my notes. But I just think, you know, we have such an opportunity to recognize our oneness and unity with all things. I read a story a couple weeks ago about, it's a story about the guy standing before God in the heavens at the end of his life and saying to God, I just came from this really miserable place. There's a lot of unhappy people, a lot of poverty, and a lot of need, and a lot of want. And this guy said to God, so who's going to fix all these problems? And God says, why do you think I sent you? Why do you think we're here? Who's going to fix these problems? You know, Patty and I, 2 times in the last 2 years, we've had major water leaks in our house. What did we do? We called a plumber. This is not rocket science. Who's going to fix these problems of division and separation and violence? We call on the infinite within us that knows our own perfection. We do our own internal work, heal our own violence, our own belief in separation, and then move forward. We could start by sitting in a different chair on Sunday morning. We begin to press out of our comfort zone and into the God zone, where something wonderful is happening, where the diversity of expression is the nature of the infinite divine, making itself known as us. Now this book, it is a dandy. You know, when I choose these books, I skim them, but I haven't read them carefully. And now I've been reading this carefully, and I'm like, wow, you are brilliant choosing this book, because it's a good one. His Holiness the Dalai Lama opens with this story at the very beginning of chapter 1. He says, not long ago, I attended a formal ceremony to mark the opening of a new Buddhist temple in Bihar, a particularly densely populated and poor part of northern India. The chief minister of Bihar, an old friend of mine, made a fine speech in which he expressed his conviction that, with the blessings of the Buddha, the state of Bihar would now prosper. When my turn came to speak, I suggested, half-jokingly, do you hear that? Half-jokingly, that if Bihar's prosperity depended solely on the blessings of the Buddha, it really should have prospered a long time ago. After all, Bihar is home to the holiest site for Buddhists, where the historical Buddha attained full enlightenment. For real change, we require more than the blessings of the Buddha, powerful though they may be, and more than prayer. We also need action, which comes about through the able efforts of people like us. And once again, I'm not saying don't pray, right? He goes on to tell the story of being in the hospital and how comforted he was by the prayers of the people who loved and supported him. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama had a lot of people praying for him when he was in the hospital a few years back, right? So he's comforted by that. But he's more comforted by the fact he's in a really great hospital with really great doctors and all the latest technology, right? And so the fact is, love and law walk hand in hand. Spirituality and science walk hand in hand to create a world that works for everyone. Our prayers, our spiritual practice lays the foundation within for us to be the place where we can change the world. Use action, science, technology, our intelligence to make the world a better place. That's what I'm about. How about you? So if we place hope only in science, if we place hope only in facts, what are we doing? We are, I can't think of the word, cultivating only one side of the equation. And remember, we're talking about one, not dual. Ernest Holmes says this is the very first paragraph in the Science of Mind textbook, page 25. He says, we all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible into the invisible. We all look forward to the day when science and religion walk hand in hand to make the world a better place. I do anyway. How about you? And I believe it's possible. When we hold our spirituality and our livingness, our humanity as one thing. And when we do our individual internal work so that we can anchor those who are collectively still doing let me just say this differently. Do our individual internal work so that we can anchor others who are doing their internal work, and so that we can anchor ourselves who are doing our collective work. Because one of the things I think we forget about in New Thought sometimes is it becomes all about me and am I doing my work? But you know what? There's a collective mind too, isn't there? Are we doing our collective work to root out our cultural false beliefs and practices that don't support a world that works for everyone? Are we doing our collective work right here in our community to root out false ideas, experiences, old energy, things that are holding us back? Are we doing it together as well as individually? Because how many things are happening? One thing. That's it. And so we're called to be greater than ourselves, and yet to also be responsible for ourselves. That's what oneness looks like. That's what unity looks like. And duality is when I'm sitting here going, do you know what Susie said last Sunday? Did you see that dress she was wearing? Or this thing that happened, and we gossip and we complain and we whine and we whatever, is only affirming our belief in separation. If we truly believe in one thing, we recognize that anything we say that harms anyone else, whether it's in mind or in action, it harms me and it harms the universal mind. We must be life-affirming and engage in behaviors and activities that harm no one. Take a breath with me now. And so, I plant the seed this day for our 2019 theme. Our 2019 theme is living in the Spirit. In January, we planted the seeds for our best year yet in 2019, didn't we? And now moving throughout the whole rest of this year, our theme is living in the Spirit. And each month we are going to take a look at a very specific thing that we must master as spiritual beings in order to take action in the world that is life-giving and harms no one. And in February, that theme is unity. Living in unity. Living in not just saying, yeah, we're a unity church, all these beautiful things about us, but in the consciousness of unity and oneness. What does it mean to live in the consciousness of unity and oneness? Not just for all of humanity, but the planet, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. There is one mind, one presence, one power. What does it mean to always walk in the consciousness of unity with this power and with this presence? So living in the Spirit has two parts, right? It has living and spirit. So living, what does it mean to live? It's an action verb, right? It means to be something or do something. And when I looked up the root of the word live, one of the German roots is unextinguished, as in burning coal. Right? You hear about live coals, right? Oh, those are live coals. See, unextinguished spirit, unextinguished living, burning with a desire to be and do something in the world that makes a difference. And so to satisfy this piece of our annual theme, we'll be engaging in monthly service projects. Some of you have brought cans of soup for the Super Bowl, right? Today is Super Bowl Sunday. It's the last day of cans of soup for Super Bowl Sunday. Those cans of soup are primarily going, I believe, to the Sophia Way and to the local food bank. My goal is 40 cans of soup per person, you guys. How you doing? I hit mine. Did you bring 40 cans of soup? What? That's okay. You can give $40. Because every dollar represents one can of soup. So see Monica in the bookstore. She'll take care of that for you. Or go down and get 40 cans of soup, bring them back this afternoon. Okay? So we've been engaging in the Super Bowl in the month of January. That closes today because today is what? Super Bowl Sunday, right? All right. For the month of January, you're going to hear from Allison, our Youth and Family Programs Director, here in a little bit. She's going to talk to you about our service project for the month of February. In the month of March, we have another plan for you. April, we have another plan. If you have ideas about what would be great service projects for us, send an email to info@unityofbellevue.org, because later in the year, we don't have that calendar filled out yet, and we'd love to take on a service project that you are behind, that you can support. So for the living in the Spirit part of living in the Spirit, we'll be engaging in action every single month, a directed activity that affirms our oneness and unity and makes a difference in the world. But there's another part, Spirit, right? Living in the Spirit. What does this mean? It's funny, I think of Spirit. We use a lot of words to describe this entity, this essence that we call God, don't we? I mean, God is just shorthand for the infinite living presence of all things, that which generates the universe, that from which all things come and to which all things return, the infinite presence, the mind, the heartbeat of the universe, the energy, the space between the stars themselves. It's all God. And we use this little 3-letter word to contain all of that stuff, right? But I like in particular the word spirit because it's root. The root word for spirit is inspire. Inspiration. The root word for spirit, the root word for inspire is breath. The root word for spirit is breath. That which moves and breathes us is the Spirit, the living one, the essence, the power, the grace. And so this is an internal, infinite resource that is as close as my neck vein, as near as my hands and feet, and yet as far away as the stars in the heavens and the furthest star in the furthest heaven. And it is personal and it is impersonal and it is infinite and it is intimate. And we cultivate a relationship with it so that we can understand it more deeply, understand it more fully, and so that we can live in it. We can be a burning coal for God. So we're living in the Spirit in 2019, and I am pretty excited about it. How about you? So today we're talking about our common humanity. We are all 100% the same. But let's talk for a moment about what it is that makes us human. What makes us human? Well, I got skin, I got eyeballs, I got hair. There is a physical me, yes? And most of us have some variation on that, right? Most of us have skin, most of us have hair, most of us have eyeballs, arms and legs. We all have a heart, a physical heart. Sometimes I wonder if we all have an emotional heart, but that's another story. We all have a heart, but what I find really interesting about our physical self is that the elements that make up this body that you see in front of you are the same elements that make up the stars. The elements that you see, if I broke it down, if I was a chemist and I could break it down, what makes me physically is the same thing that makes the furthest star in the universe, that makes the dirt of planet Earth, that makes the moon, that makes the stuff we can't see in the heavens. It's all happening right here. Now that's a pretty exciting idea, isn't it? Because what it means is that on some level, I really am one with all there is. Physically, this is not just an abstract new thought. No, these people that think they're all about oneness and unity, what do they know? No, there actually is a physical fact that I am created of the same stuff as the furthest planet. That's a pretty cool idea. What makes me human? Bones, sinews, muscle. Oh, and star stuff. The other thing that makes me human, I think, is the fact that I am a conscious being. I have a mind. I have an awareness. We've been talking in spiritual practice class about what does that mean. You know, what does awareness mean? Is a rock aware? Is a plant aware? Am I aware? Is the universe conscious? But in human terms, I think this sentience that we talk about is simply our ability to respond to the environment, which we do all the time, right? And why do we respond to our environment? He says, the Dalai Lama says, and this makes a lot of sense to me, we respond to our environment in an effort to avoid pain and experience pleasure. Make sense? If you really think about it, I mean, you know, I go to work every day to avoid the pain of not having any money. Right? Now, I get a lot of intrinsic satisfaction from my job. Yes, but I've done a lot of things over the years that were not satisfying, that I did them just because I wanted to avoid the pain of not being able to pay my bills. I've done a lot of things over the years to avoid pain and not feel my feelings. We do a lot of things, don't we, to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. So this sentience actually let's put it this way. Avoiding pain and pursuing pleasure is responsible for both the biggest messes in our lives, yes, and the most wonderful experiences as well. And I would say that that's true for humanity as well. This constant desire to avoid pain and get pleasure is responsible for the biggest messes on our planet, as well as some of the most beautiful and joyful things on our planet. Do you see this sentience and how we're made up mentally and emotionally is what evolves us? Because when we end up in these big messes, it's painful. And so we start seeking ways out to experience more pleasure. And if we are paying attention, it's an evolutionary process. It grows us. I experience a lot less pain than I did 20 years ago. How about you? Because I hadn't evolved yet to understand what I needed to do to avoid pain, which included feeling some pain. Because the only way out is through. And so what makes me human is both my physical self, but also my consciousness, my sentience. Both things make me human, and yet at the same time I am also divine. This source, this substance of all life that we identified as spirit, is the source of me. I cannot escape from it. It is right where I am. Because what did God have to create from? Itself, alone. And so I am of its essence. And there are a couple of different ways to think about how we as humans express our spirituality. A couple of dimensions, I might say, of spirituality. The first is kind of our inner experience. How many of you use the phrase spiritual, not religious? I hear that a lot in New Thought. I'm spiritual, not religious. Because what that speaks to for a lot of people is this inner dimension of our spirituality. It is the place, the inner kind of mental and emotional balance, the strength born of the God of our being. Because we live in a universe of oneness and unity and love, something in us remembers this. And because God is love, we want to be love. We want to be loving. Because that's our true nature. It's our innermost thing. And all it wants to do is express. And then, I don't know about you, but I was raised in a religion that was born out of an effort to give structure and form to this inner experience of the divine, right? I was raised mostly Lutheran. Form and structure, a lot of form and structure there, you guys, right? Nicene Creed, liturgy, a lot of form and structure. And you know, as a young person, it actually really served me. But I reached a point in my life where there was something missing in that for me. That dimension of spirituality by itself, the form and structure, the religion dimension by itself was not enough. And it's so, aren't we interesting? Because what I did was like, so God is a bunch of you-know-what, so never mind. And I walked away. Because somehow some part of me, some human part of me, the sentient part of me, was experiencing enough pain, enough discord in that environment that I just kind of thought it was all wrong. It was all bad. And then I had to wake up a little more and realize, maybe it's not God that doesn't work for me. Maybe it's the structure that doesn't work for me. Maybe it's the religion that doesn't work for me. And it was actually a number of years before I was able to kind of come to that awareness and recognize that there was still something in me that was burning, a life within me that was burning like a bright coal to know God more deeply. And I believe that's burning in all of us, but we cover it up. We cover it up with, that. And don't use the word God, please. It bothers me. I hear that. I get that a lot. And it's always interesting for me because it kind of used to bother me too. And what I realized is that I needed to evolve. That when that word was used and it bothered me, I hadn't evolved beyond it to have a true understanding of what that word meant. And that it was triggering my old false beliefs that were planted in me by religion. And I needed to transcend those. But the fact is, religion is not bad. Religion is not bad. It gives form and structure. And there are so many religions on planet Earth that do so much good in the world. And I praise God and I thank God for my Lutheran upbringing. And I won't go into all the gifts, but so many gifts. And then to avoid pain and pursue pleasure, I said, done there. And it was 20 years later when I was in ministerial school, we had to do 3 church visits. We had to visit churches other than our own. It was one of the classes I took. And we had to go visit some church other than New Thought and do some writing. And I went back to the church that I grew up in. I hadn't been there in like 25 years. And it was insane. I was like, oh my gosh. Suddenly so many things make sense. And yet, I look at that community, which is still loosely affiliated with my family. They do so much good. They do so much good. And it was so good for me to be part of that community at the time that I was. And it was good for me to go back and look. So unity, not duality says, oh, that's bad and this is good. Unity says, my life is enriched, my beingness is enriched by all the experiences of my life, even the ones that might have been kind of painful. And so in this second dimension of spirituality, when we talk about religion, we cannot make it bad. We cannot make it wrong. It is what it is, and it is what has brought us to this place. And are there organizations and individuals who abuse the form and structure? Absolutely. Are there individuals and organizations that abuse New Thought form and structure? Absolutely. But that's about the individuals, not about the religion, not about the teaching. It's about individuals who are seeking pain and avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. Or the other way around, who knows? That's all it's about. It's not about the teaching. All things are meant for good. This is what the Bible tells us. God means all things for good. If there's something to be learned, we simply learn it. We don't get mad at the source of the pain. We learn it and we move on and we bless the experience and give thanks for it. And so when you ask actually, let me put this another way. This is the way we can really make a difference, is to recognize the oneness and unity of all things. Embrace the inner truth of who we are. Evolve, heal the old stuff. And we often do that right here in spiritual community, don't we? Be of service to the world in some way that's greater than you are. Make a difference. Serve. Be alive with the infinite loving heart of God that does nothing but give. That's all it does, is give. Be alive with that giving spirit, that giving nature, and allow yourself to evolve from the pain. Allow yourself to evolve from pain avoidance and pleasure seeking into knowing the truth of who you are and living from that place. That is, cultivate that first dimension, that inner mental and emotional and spiritual balance that is born of the infinite love of the presence, and provide yourself with some form or structure in which to cultivate that. And ask yourself, who's going to fix these problems? And then remember, what? There is nothing to be fixed. There is something for us to be. Because you see, the problems are just a manifestation of the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. And we must be greater than that. We must be the presence of love. And look around for the action in the world. How must I live my life? What is the action I must take in the world that does make that difference? You see, there is nothing wrong. There is nothing to be fixed. There is only an outcome that is calling for a bigger idea. Be that bigger idea. And then they'll fix themselves. Which is a pretty amazing and brilliant idea, yes? And so what I want to invite you to do is turn within with me. As we seal this message and ask ourselves a critical question. Turning within, bring your attention to your breath. And feel your breath as it moves effortlessly in and out of your body. An endless cycle of reception and release. And you recognize, you recognize, you remember that something is breathing you, the Spirit. Inspirare, inspiration, respiration. The very Spirit of the universe itself is breathing you. Right where you are, you cannot be separate from it. And as it is true for you, it is true for everyone in this room. We all breathe the very breath of God. For we are created in its image and likeness. Its substance is our substance, our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our spirits. At one with the infinite, no separation, no division, no duality, only one thing, one life, one power, one presence. And it is right where we are. It is right where everything is. We cannot be separate from it. And we anchor in this spiritual truth right now. We anchor in this spiritual truth simply knowing that every time we breathe the very breath of oneness, we breathe the breath of unity, we breathe the breath of God. And so it's in this awareness that I invite you to just cast your mind about your life. Look around in your life. Where is avoiding pain driving you? Where is seeking pleasure driving you? And without making yourself wrong, without making anything bad, simply allow yourself to get a bigger idea. Feel your mind and heart expanding into the very breath of God, the mind of God, the heart of God. And allow yourself to get a bigger idea of the presence. Guiding you, lifting you, supporting you. Such that you can feel whatever needs to be felt. Such that you can release whatever needs to be released. For you to more fully embody a consciousness of oneness and unity. And you feel this consciousness expanding to fill every nook and cranny, every part of your body, your mind, your heart, for you are both physical and spiritual. Every cell in your body is vibrating with the awareness of oneness and unity. As you allow yourself now to know, what is it that is mine to do this week? What is mine to do this week that will make the world a better place? What is mine to do that will contribute to the evolution of the planet, to a greater awareness of oneness and unity among all people, all things, all energies, all presences, to more fully unify with the mind and heart of God. And as this thing for you to do manifests in your mind, allow yourself to know what it is you must be. What must you be in order to actually do it? And now simply see yourself engaged in that divine activity. You see yourself being the presence of the infinite living one. Living in the Spirit, engaging in divine activity that serves the planet, that evolves and grows you and the world. And give thanks for this opportunity to serve. Give thanks for this opportunity to grow in God. And give thanks for your ever-expanding awareness of the oneness and unity of all things and all people, our common humanity. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, knowing that the word spoken is the word done. I give thanks for it all, and so it is. Amen.